Tonight, FS1 features some of the most influential women in WWE on Women's Revolution. It all begins at 7 Eastern as we take a look back at the careers of Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and Charlotte Flair. It's WWE action in primetime tonight on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. Well, one thing that was made clear in the first two episodes of Michael Jordan's The Last Dance documentary was just how underpaid Scottie Pippen really was heading into that 1997-98 season. Even though Pippen led the Bulls in several stat categories, and Michael Jordan said himself that you can't mention my name without mentioning Scottie Pippen. So, Shannon, I want to ask you, in your opinion, how valuable was Pippen to Michael Jordan?
He was immensely invaluable. Because, Skip, you have to remember that Jordan got swept in 87 by the Celtics, which was Scottie's rookie year. He got swept in 86, which was Jordan's second year. And he lost 3-1 to the Bucks in his first year in the playoffs. What Scottie Pippen allowed Michael Jordan to do, Skip, was focus on what he was great at, arguably the greatest to ever do it, which is score the basketball. Because Pip could assist the ball, and he could also, because he was so long, because he did it so effortlessly, he could take their best scoring option, be it a point guard, two guard, 3 or 4. Scottie Pippen was probably a better defender than Michael Jordan, Skip, for the simple fact he could guard more positions. He was taller. That wingspan was a problem for a lot of people. So he allowed Michael Jordan to be Michael Jordan. Michael didn't have to worry about facilitating the offense because Scottie Pippen was what we call the first point forward, Skip. He was unbelievable at that. He was very good. Well, I wouldn't say he's the first. Larry Bird was really the first point forward, Skip. He did it before Scottie Pippen, but Scottie gets a lot of credit for him. I think he was very, very important to Michael. Michael said there can be no Michael Jordan without mentioning Scottie Pippen. Skip, he was not the elite scorer, but he did all the other things so extremely well, which allowed Michael to focus on scoring the basketball. And Michael could D up. So I don't want people to think that Michael Jordan was a slouch on the defensive end because he was anything but that. 9 times first team all-defense, defensive player of the year, I think 88-89 season. So that lets you know. But Skip, Pip was as good a wing defender as that we'll ever have or will ever have. And he allowed Michael Jordan to escape, to be free, to just worry about scoring the basketball and not have so much on his plate. So I don't believe we could have had this story, The Last Dance, without Scottie Pippen, because I don't believe 91 through 93 and 96 through 98 happened if Scottie Pippen is not on that team.
I'm just glad you corrected yourself. Trust me on this. Scottie Pippen was not a better defender than Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Michael Jordan was the defensive player of the year and 9 times, as you point out, first team all defense. He was extraordinary. He was a game changer on defense. He was a disruptor. We saw him steal the ball from Karl Malone in that fateful Game 6 of his final run in the Last Dance finals against Utah at Utah. And yet, I want to make the point that Michael never campaigned, go get Scottie, go acquire Scottie. He just didn't care. It's not like LeBron campaigning, I need Anthony Davis, or LeBron joining forces with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, or LeBron saying, Dwayne's knees are shot, I got to go back. I got to join forces with Kyrie and Kevin Love back in Cleveland for my second time around. It wasn't like that. They did draft Scottie Pippen, and I was hard on Jerry Krause yesterday. I give him credit. He did draft him. I give him that. And yet, Michael wasn't clamoring for help. He just sort of came up with Scottie, and they grew up together in a way. Michael was a little bit older, but again, Michael was a baby in those times you bring up early on. And once he grew up, he grew way up. And he had to put some pounds on and some muscle on to be able to defeat the Pistons, thanks to Tim Grover, his trainer. And yet, once he grew up, he grew completely up. And when, in the end, you could see, Shannon, I was there in 98. Scottie was a very good player, but he wasn't an all-time great player. And yes, Michael said all the right things the other night in the documentary about how much Scottie meant to him, because he did mean a lot to him. He was his Robin, and he was an excellent Robin. But Scottie had no Batman in him whatsoever. Case in point, remember the one complete year that Michael was gone back in 93, 94. Scottie had a very good year. He averaged 22, 9, and 6 and made the All-Star team. And because there was no Jordan, he got a number of votes for MVP. He finished third that year in MVP. But once they got to the second round of the playoffs, you'll remember against the Knicks, a series they lost in 7 games. In Game 3 in Chicago, you remember what happened. At the end of the game, Scottie committed a blunder where he was waving Kukoc over to set a screen, and he let the shot clock get too deep, and he shot it too late, and the buzzer went off, and they had a clock violation. And then once Ewing scored to tie the score, Phil called timeout, Phil Jackson, and called the last play for Tony Kukoc because Kukoc was the closer for that team. He had made 4 buzzer beaters that year to win games with jump shots. Scottie wasn't the Jordan replacement. Actually, Kukoc was. And so when Phil called the last play, it was Scottie inbounding to Kukoc. Scottie just waved out. He just couldn't take it anymore and went and sat on the bench and wouldn't even go in the game. So Phil said, okay, and he sent Pete Myers in to throw the ball in bounds to Kukoc, who then made the shot to win the game. And then to cap this off, look what happened after the last dance. Scottie was only 33 years of age, and he went to Houston and joined Hakeem and Charles Barkley, and they were pretty good. But they lost in 4 games to the Lakers in a best-of-5 in the first round. And Scottie was the third wheel on that team in points scored behind Hakeem and behind Charles Barkley. And then Scottie goes to Portland for 4 more years, and he averages 11, 5, and 5. And in that first go-around at Portland, remember, they played the Lakers and played them great all the way to Game 7. And they were up 71-58 going to the fourth quarter of Game 7. And what happened? Scottie didn't happen. They wanted him to be Jordan, and in the fourth quarter, he played almost the whole fourth quarter and scored no points and went 0 for 3, and they blew the whole lead and blew the game to the Shaq Lakers at that point. So to me, he got exposed.
For me, Skip, Scottie was never Michael. He never had that capacity, Skip. But I think it took Scottie growing up, too, because remember, Skip, he had to toughen up also because the knock on him was you punish him. You knock him down. You look at some of those Bad Boy Pistons documentary and see how they treated Scottie Pippen. They treated him just like they treated Jordan. You come into the lane, we going upside your head. And he had to toughen up. He had to grow up also, Skip. And you keep saying Michael didn't campaign because he had competent people in the front office that they drafted Scottie Pippen. They drafted, guess what they did? They traded one of Jordan's best friends, Charles Oakley, and got a Bill Cartwright because they needed size in order to compete with the Knicks, in order to compete with the Bad Boy Pistons. So LeBron wouldn't have to ask if he had people in the front office that would do their job. See, the problem I have with you, Skip Bayless, you said because Jordan didn't ask. Well, LeBron wouldn't ask either. If he'd had first-rate people that go to the Hall of Fame, if he had a Pat Riley, if he had a Jerry West, if he had competent people in the front office doing the job, he wouldn't need to ask. But since they won't do his job, I got to lead the team in points, rebound, and assists, and I got to do the front office job by asking you, man, go get me some help.
If Michael Jordan in 1998 had Kuzma and B.I. and Lonzo and JaVale and Rondo, he would have said, I'm good. Watch what we can do with this. He was a greater leader and had greater aura and mystique and the ability to lift a whole franchise than LeBron does. LeBron was like, I can't win with this. Bad body language, everybody quitting. He wanted to trade the whole team. He needed another superstar, and Michael did not need another superstar.
So what was Dennis Rodman? Dennis Rodman was 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He led he led the league in rebounding every year he was with the Bulls. His first year with the Bulls, Scottie, and Mike was first team all defense. So Dennis Rodman led the league in rebounding for 7 straight years, but he's a bum. Let Skip Bayless tell you. Scottie Pippen just made the All-Star team, and as a matter of fact, after they won the finals, they won 53 games in 93. The next year, Jordan leaves, 94. He missed the whole season. They win 55. Scottie Pippen is All-Star Game MVP. He finished third. So, Skip, this notion that he was a bum is not true. Was he on Jordan level? No, absolutely not. But I do not believe the first three-peat or the second three-peat happens without Scottie Pippen, without Scottie Pippen being Scottie Pippen. And sometimes, Skip, Deion Branch, look at him, Skip. He was never the same player once he left Tom Brady in that system. He got $11, $12 million to go to Seattle and had to come back. So that doesn't take away from who he is. Yeah, maybe he's not an all-time great receiver, but in that system with Michael Jordan, he was a historically great. Celtics would have been, Skip, had Casey Jones and Sam Jones or Tommy Heinsohn in their prime played elsewhere. But because they played with Russell and they played with Cousy and they had Havlicek. So it happens like that sometimes, Skip. But I believe Michael Jordan, in order to be who he was, Scottie Pippen helped allow him to be that.
Shannon, Michael Jordan won with Luke Longley and Bill Winnington at center. Enough said. Case closed.
But you make it seem like he beat Elijah Wan. You make it seem like he beat David Robinson at center.
All right. We're leaving it because here's the thing.